Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm glad you're here to join me. Today, I'm going to be painting a barn that is a couple of miles away from my house. We've had some beautiful snowstorms here in Pennsylvania, and we're going to start. I've taped off my Etcher sketchbook, and it is 100% cotton paper, and I'm using my new Gallo paints. And I bought a 48-piece set. You can see 24 of the colors. But I'm starting out with a turquoise blue along the top, and I'm doing a quick sketch. I've sped it up of the barn and the little yellow house that's next to it, and another little barn. And the reason I love this painting, or why I wanted to do this, is I love the strand of purple clouds that goes across the middle of the sky. I will put a a link to a picture of my reference photo that I took a few weeks ago, so you can see that. And it's just that is what captivated me about this scene. So I've done this a couple of times trying to get the purple in there the way that I want it. And this way that I just filmed seemed to be the best way to do it. So I'm going all the way down with my turquoise blue to the horizon line. And then I'm coming in with a little bit of lavender um, for the snow. It's kind of mixed with the blue, but now we're going in with pure lavender to give the pretty snow color down there. And I love this is a color that I ordered from A Gallo. It is lavender, and I ordered a separate tube of it, and that's why you can see it squirted out on my palette there. Uh, Over to the right, I'm doing this strand of trees that was kind of icy and kind of ethereal looking. So I want to drop in a little bit of lavender over there to give it some color where the trees are going to go. And now I'm going to go in at the bottom with a more concentrated bit of the turquoise blue that is the same as the sky, but I'm doing it a little bit darker at the bottom. The purple clouds are going to go in the middle. So I'm liking the gradation that is going from the top to the bottom, and I actually do want some white area here where the purple clouds are, because as you can see from the reference photo, that on the top of the clouds, there's white like rolling in. It's just beautiful. It was a beautiful day a few weeks ago when I took this picture. So now I'm putting a little bit of lavender on the roof to look like the snow. There's a little bit of snow up there. And now I'm coming back in with just pure darker lavender. As you know, the watercolor paints are going to dry a few shades lighter. And so I tried several times. When you're wanting to do a painting, you should practice a few times, because you can be really frustrated with the first couple attempts. And as you work your way through your colors and try different things, it's usually like the third time that I do a painting that I really enjoy it, or I'm happy with it. So there's something to be said for doing that. Now I'm still going in with just pure color, some pure lavender, to suggest the trees again on that right hand side, and going in yet darker. I had wet the top of the paper a little bit, but the rest of the paper was dry when I started. So this was wet on dry, and now I'm just dropping more pigment into the wet areas from earlier. And now I'm mixing up like a burnt red, like a brick red. I've got an orangey one and a more red one. And I don't really want to, I could give you the colors, but if you're looking at your palette and I say, use a red and an orange red, use what you like and what you have in your color palette to do this. I will list the colors that I'm using in the link below, because I do have a reference sheet for it. So I'll list the colors that I used, but give it a go with your own colors as well. I didn't use a whole lot of colors in this painting. So now I'm going in with like the burnt red and then adding some purple at the bottom because the stone at the bottom is wet and darker. So I wanted to give it a little bit, darken it up there at the bottom just a little bit. And the top of this barn is wood, the top triangle, and the bottom is stone. And so that's why I'm going up and down where the wood boards go up and down from the roof. And then the stone are more side to side, like in a bricklayer stacked stone manner, um, which is why I'm moving my brush a little bit differently doing the roof than I am doing the bottom. This little area over to the left is a little extension off of the barn that has an open area underneath where there was some salt stacked and just some farm paraphernalia. So that's why I'm only going halfway down with that little wooden structure off to the side, and I'm just going in pretty light and then coming back in with deepening the color and the shadows with another layer of pigment after getting the basic colors in there. And the barns here are interesting. You can see there's one angle on one side and then it goes down and angles over. There are a lot of barns that do that here, and this one also does that. You can see it goes down just a little bit and then the roof goes up a little bit higher. I'm actually doing a series of barns here in Bucks County, so it's fascinating to see all the different kinds of barns. This is a bank barn, and where I'm painting now is the shadow part of the barn, and I'm doing it with the burnt red color mixed with some real nice lavender and a little bit of darker purple, just to show that this is the shadow side of the barn. And I'm avoiding the angle right there is the snow that is going up the bank and into the barn. And so we're going to deepen up the purples in here and make it even real dark in the center where the doors are kind of open. I kind of wanted to leave it kind of obscure, but um, give it a little bit of form in there. And now the the barn comes all the way down on that side in the shadow. So we're coming down with some purple and taking some care to leave that bank um, at the angle that it's at, not try not to ruin that. Um, there are a few things that I can't really tell what they are, like the shadows that go up to the barn. So, in looking at my reference photo, because there's not this much snow down there anymore, I'm just putting in the shapes that I can see on the reference photo without being too perfect. And now I'm coming in with some beige and some buff titanium mixed with a little bit of cad lemon and then also a little bit of just a little bit darker yellow. And on the front side of the house, I'm doing the lighter color. And on the side that I'm doing now, that is more in the shadow. So I'm deepening it with a little bit of purple. And this is going to dry a lot lighter. I don't want this to jump to the front of the painting. I'm trying to do it not to call attention to it in the background. And now I'm adding some of the little things that are under that open space with the extension on the barn, and then the roof of this cute little yellow house that's tucked in there. And now there is some stuff on the right side of the barn. I don't even know what this is, but it looks neat in the picture, and it's something, it's not pallets stacked up. It's some kind of farm thing, and I don't know what it is. And you can look at the picture and maybe make it bigger and tell me if you know what it is. I do live on a farm. I don't have one of these on my farm, but I put it in because I was really happy with the composition of this photo when I took it, and I'm not really changing much at all about it in painting it. So I'm just kind of being a bit of a slave to the photo that I took. And now I'm just putting in some shadows in the snow so that it kind of runs over to draw your eye over to the other barn that is over there, or brick structure, stone structure. And we're putting the little windows in. I grabbed a small flat brush. It's just so much easier to do windows with a flat brush. I've struggled before using pointed round ones. I just have a heck of a time. So I would suggest, if you get frustrated doing windows, get yourself a few flat brushes in different sizes. This is a real tiny flat brush. Then I was like, oh, why am I doing the window on this brown barn or building before I do the stone building? So I stopped with the window, and I'm going in with a nice dark brown. This is a stone. It's not a barn where horses are. I'm not quite sure what this building is behind this barn, but it was pretty. So I'm putting it in and doing a mixture of going back and forth between my browns, my blues, and my purples. And take it all the way down to the snow. And I'm pretty careful when I'm putting these in to try to maintain. It's really easy to slip and lose the shape of the peak of the barn. And so if I could give one piece of advice, it would be to take that your time when you're doing that. And now I'm darkening the color a lot because um, the last painting I did it way too light and it looked real funky. And so I'm making sure to go in very dark on this building right from the get-go. And then adding more brown and more purple at the bottom for some it's wet at the bottom of the barn and shadowy, and you don't want it to all be the same color on the face of the barn. So I deepened the bottom, and then I'm putting in the big windows and doors that are in this building. And really messing around with it. Even though I have my square brush, it can be, um, I get frustrated sometimes with windows. And it had this little weird window right there in the middle. But now I've mixed some dark green, and there's a beautiful pine tree that's covered in snow that's to the side of this yellow house. And now I have a pointed, a round brush. That's my Etcher Lab brush, which I really like. I I ordered them a couple of years ago when I ordered some sketchbooks, and I thought, oh, Etcher is more known for their papers and their sketchbooks, but I really like their brushes. And so I think I have two or three of their brushes, and I find myself using them all the time. And so with the tree, I love painting pine trees, and you want to put like a little trunk when you're first starting in the middle, and they face down towards the ground at the bottom, and then they go more straight, like you're holding your arm straight out in the middle, and then they go up like a V towards the sky, towards the top. And it takes a little bit of playing around with it, but I just really enjoy painting pine trees. So now I'm coming in with it yet darker. I added some very dark violet and dark green so that the bottom is a little darker on this. And I'm going to go back I know a lot of people will do watercolors. They don't like using white. I do like using white gouache at the end of my snow scenes. And so I am going to go over the pine tree with white paint. And then this really cool stone building has a row of trees behind it. And actually, in the reference photo, you'll see it actually more goes straight across the back of this building and over to the barn. But I varied the tops a little bit. I didn't like it going over just like a straight line. Um, so that is the only place where I took a lot of artistic license and made the trees the heights and the kind of varied them to make it more pleasing to me. So, and again, I'm just blocking them in. And you want to leave a good amount of space. Notice there's a lot of white space in between the trees. The one thing that you don't want to do when you're doing these is to obliterate your white space, because it really makes the pine tree look more realistic. Like, I probably could have left it like this and it looks like there's snow on some parts of the tree. But I prefer, like I said, to layer the gouache on with white and a little bit of lavender mixed in when I'm doing watercolors. So now I'm taking care to go down the ramp, of the bank barn, making sure it goes at an angle down to the house. And then you're going to want to go back in and make it darker around the perimeter of the house. So I'm going to get some darker, deeper pigment to go right where those trees meet the snow. And I'm even throwing a little bit of lavender in there. This lavender looks really nice mixed in with some of these greens. So it's like my new favorite color on my palette, which is a great color for winter, lavender, because there are so many, looking out the window with the snow, so many blues, and this lavender is just such a perfect snow color. And now I'm just playing with the tops, making them a little bit less defined and more defined, if that makes sense. Some of them were a little fat. I want them to not be such a focal point. So now I'm going in with dark, 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 dark green, where that goes around the house. And even putting some darker trees at the front, you'll see over on the left. And now I'm kind of just pulling it up a little bit so it doesn't look too drastic. And then deepening, going another shade darker where the trees meet the snow. And even kind of throwing some over on the left side so there's some continuity. And now back to my tiny square or flat brush, and I'm using a brownish purple to drop the windows of the house in. And take your time when you're doing this. You don't want to mess it up with a wonky window or a wonky door. Even though there are people that make it look effortless, I just am so jealous where they just boop, boop, boop with their brush and drop the windows in. But I find when I do that, it looks like I'm in kindergarten painting. So I just try to take a little bit of time to get them in the right spot. Now this purple cloud, which is my favorite part of the painting. So I'm coming in and I'm going to go in and lay it in a light purple. I'm not going to lay it in super dark, but we're going to go back in and drop more pigment in once we get this big, beautiful line of purple across the sky exactly where I want it. This is what drew me to the scene, was this beautiful purple cloud. And I loved the way the blue sky was peeking underneath it right above the horizon. So I'm going to great care to leave that little line of blue that's down there above the trees and below where the cloud ends. And then I'm carefully going around the roof of the barn. So I'm working kind of quickly to lay this in, and working kind of wet so that I have some working time to drop in my darker purple. And I'm going around this band of icy trees that's in there. We're going to dab it out with a paper towel so that there's not a hard line of cloud there. And now I'm adding a lot of indanthrone blue and my violet, because it's this beautiful dark purple, and it's the deepest at the very bottom of the cloud. And so I'm going to dot all along the bottom of this cloud layer with the dark, dark, dark pigment. And then I'm even going to mix in a little touch of a little bit of pink, barely. And so I put a little touch of magenta in there. You can barely see it. And then I'm carefully going around the roof, and I still feel like I kind of messed it up a little bit, but I will go over that with some white gouache where the snow is on the roof. And now I'm taking my etcher brush and just kind of pulling it. It's so beautiful. It was so beautiful in person with these like wisps and it's not a solid block of purple. So I'm kind of pulling this magenta up, and at the very top of this bank of purple cloud is this light white, barely purple. It was like a cloud rolling over the purple clouds, almost like a wave, which was just so captivating. So I'm not taking the purple all the way up to the top. I'm leaving that top area lighter, and I'm even gonna kind of pull some of the pigment out up there to keep that nice and light and look like I'm going to try to get it to look like it's rolling over these purple clouds. So now I'm taking plain water, putting a little bit of water in, and then picking it back up, drying my brush and picking it back up off of the top. And I'm very happy with the way my clouds ended up when this whole painting's done. And so I'm pulling out as much of the pigment at the top as I can and playing around a little bit with the color that's in there, which is kind of dangerous, but I wouldn't really mind if there were some bloomy spots in here. Bloom with a B, not gloomy, because that's how the clouds actually looked. So I'm just playing around with it a little bit, pulling a little bit more of the dark purple out of the top. And now I'm adding clear water because I do want a bloomy cloud look coming over. And I thought, okay, I'll add some water to move this purple pigment out of the way. And I'm actually very happy with the effect that it gave my clouds. Now I'm picking some of it back up because I don't want it to wash out my entire cloud. And then I'm going back in with my paper towel, just a rolled up pointy tip of that and touching all along the top where I want to pull some of that water out. Just kind of a dance back and forth, but I think, I, like I said, I'm happy with the purple clouds at the end. Sometimes you have to mess around with it a little bit. I know the rule in watercolor is not to. Now I'm coming in at the bottom and adding some darker swirls of dark purple carefully, because there are some real dark spots in the bottom of this. And now I wiped off my brush and I'm just gonna lightly pull that out so it's not a continuous dark purple line right there. I have never seen such a beautiful bank of clouds. We get some beautiful skies around here, but this particular day was spectacular. Now I'm taking my brush and I'm drying it off, and it has no pigment on it, and I'm again pulling up some paint at the bottom, because at the bottom of this cloud there were also some white wispy, or light purple wispy clouds. And now I'm coming in with my gouache to kind of reestablish the peak of this barn. And there's a little bit of lavender that's mixing in there, and I like that. I don't want it to be solid white, so I let the lavender and the white kind of mingle there. Try to get that peak back the way it was. I know this is a much longer video than usual, and I've actually been working on long videos for my Patreon channel that I'm starting. And so I kind of hesitate sometimes to share these really long videos. They are definitely for a specific market of people who, specific painters. I love to watch very long videos. I feel like I lose 90% of my audience when I post anything over 15 minutes. But I have to tell you that sometimes when I'm doing a painting, I can't, I don't want to cut it down to a 15-minute quick painting. And so yeah, I'd love to hear if you're still with me, which we are. How far? We're almost a half hour into the video. And you are one of those people that likes to watch long videos. I would like to drop in the comments that you like long videos. If you don't like long videos and think that this should have been condensed a little bit more, also let me know that. I am really curious about how many people hang in there and watch the entire 49 minutes of the video. Like I said, sometimes when I'm doing a painting and I want to share it with everyone, I don't want to cut it to pieces, just to attract more people to watch it. I would rather have my audience of painter friends that likes to watch the entire video um, here with me to paint these longer videos. So, like I said, I'm doing some real, longer 1 and 2 hour ones for Patreon, but that's a whole different ball of wax. But I love to share them on YouTube. I'm having a really fun time doing this. I'm just starting my second year of painting on YouTube, so it's been a lot of fun. So back to the video. So now I'm just adding white with a little bit of purple, a little bit of lavender mixed in to put this snow on top of these cute little trees. And I apologize, I do notice that the camera is moving. I noticed this, and I tried to fix it in my Photoshop before, while I was editing, and I can't figure out how to straighten half the tape. So I think this is about as wonky as it gets for the duration of the tape, but I apologize for the, if you're sitting with your head tilted to the left watching this. Um, Little technical difficulties. Now I'm coming in because these trees were pretty well dusted with snow, and so I want to get a good little layer of snow on all these cute little trees. And I probably, the trees to the right, the icy trees, I ended up putting some trees in there. It was a weird little area, but it just looked like a little ice forest. So we'll get to that in a minute. Now I'm going in and just putting more snow, getting these trees because they were completely covered from the night before with fresh snow, which is my favorite day to run around and take pictures and get reference photos around here. Is in the morning. This was in the morning on a Sunday morning, but I also love to do it in the evening when the sun is going down because you get some beautiful, if you have clouds, you get some beautiful um, colors on the snow. So this was, I don't know, maybe 8 in the morning uh, up the street from here. So, all right, let's go in and putting a little bit of lavender to kind of anchor these little buildings here. And there was a nice little shadow right there. Kind of anchoring that barn. And another little snow shadow over here. And then I am watering the white and even adding a little bit of white gouache at the top because these clouds were a little more white at the top. And so I watered it down rather than coming in with straight gouache, but it actually made it look much more realistic and how it looked that day to add a little layer of a lighter whitish lavender along the top. And I'm trying to capture that cloud that spilled over. It looked like a wave that was curling. It's just beautiful. And then again, adding a little bit of, it had kind of some swirly white, almost like mist at the bottom there. Sometimes when I get painting, I don't pay enough attention to all the edges. It's much different painting in watercolor, as you know, than in oil. You have a lot of time to go back and correct things. In watercolor, you don't always have the luxury of time to fix things um, as easily as you can with other mediums. So I really try to take a constantly kind of screen. It's like when you're driving, you're supposed to look in your rearview mirror, what, every 10 seconds? And when I'm painting in watercolors, I'm trying to scan the whole painting to see if there are areas that I have overlooked while working on other areas. And so now for this little strand of trees, we're going to go in. And at first, I put in a lot of very thin branches. I wasn't real happy with it, so I went back in with some thicker trunks later. Um, I mean, it's the part of the painting that I liked better in my last painting because I did the trees a little bit more prominent, but I don't want it to overwhelm the rest of the painting. That's not, my focal point is the barn and the purple cloud that runs along the back. So I just want to get some branches in here, and they were brown, but I throw blue and purple. I think one of the best things you can do when you're painting in watercolor too is to switch your color up every time you dip your brush. Um, it just seems to make the overall painting look better. And so I'm going back and forth with white for the snow because these trees were also covered all the way up the trunks with white snow that had blown all over them the night before or fallen on them. And I want to get up the sides of the trees, and then also there are branches going in every direction. So gonna get those in there. And I'm pretty happy with the progress of the painting. Like I said, I know this is a long one. We have another 14 minutes. But each area, there's some things you can't rush. I did speed up the drawing portion when I sketched it in, but I just, like I said, I'd like to share most of the process with this one. So, and more snow. I could probably stop now, but I never do. When you start, when you get going with white on your paintbrush, it's really hard to know when to say when. And a little more. And I think in looking at this too, after I get the white in, I want to deepen the base with a little bit more lavender. And I'm trying to run those branches up into the cloud so that there's not a real hard line that's there. I also need to learn to move my hand to the left. Sometimes you can see so well what I'm painting, and other times I don't know why I don't think about moving my hand so that you can see the paintbrush. I'm gonna have to put these sticky notes up for myself. Now I'm coming in with these thicker trunks on this because I was not happy with was a little bit too delicate on those branches and not giving it enough shape over there. So in I come with a thicker, it's still a fine line paintbrush, but I think the bigger tree trunks looked much better over there. And I still maintained a lot of the white of the snow in that forest area. But that does look better with the big tree trunks. And then we're going to drop a little bit darker, go up and make sure these look somewhat realistic. And now we take the deep lavender and kind of anchor all of these over there with the brush that's down at the bottom, and it was just getting a little bit lost over there. So we're going to deepen that up. That's better. Just kind of pull it up through the trees a little bit. Can't tell if that's, little pathway. Now, what I did is I watered down some white and splattered it in to just that area. It just the lines were bothering me, I guess, for lack of a better term. I wanted to throw a little bit of different, move the eye around in there a little bit. And now I've got my little, again, my flat, small brush to add these stones. First, I'm going to go up and down to suggest the boards that go up and down on this barn from the pitch of the roof down to where the roof ends. So I'm coming in with my flat brush in the direction that the boards run, and I'm deepening it. It dried so much lighter, and it just didn't look right. So we're going in with this dark orangey red, which again, I'll put a list of the colors in the description below from my A Gallo palette. Now I'm going to keep going in with these boards. I'm not really happy. I went in, you'll see after this, with a Posca pen and went around the windows. I probably should have left them like this or gone in with a thinner pen. Now I'm going to put in a darker shadowy purple to go along to suggest the separation of the wood and the stone. And then I'm going to just drag that down and also drag the color up to suggest the wood slats to the top. And then I'm just trying to blend it coming downward, not do lines to suggest lumber. And then we're going to come in with more stones. The stone kind of disappeared. You can see it a little bit more prominently on my reference photo. And so I wanted to make the stones stand out a little bit more. So I'm just coming in. I do like the way the first wash melded together with the purples and the blues and the reds complementing each other. And so I just want to come in at this point and do have some of the stone stand out. I'm going to come in with a little bit darker. It's got a combination. There are about 5 or 6 different colored stones in this wall. And at the bottom, because of the moisture of the snow, it always appears darker when I'm driving around photographing these stone barns, or my own stone barn. Looks much darker at the bottom, going up about 3 feet, the base of the barn, because of the moisture, and the stones, get wet and they look like a different color, darker than the stones above it. So I'm deepening the stones on the back wall of the barn there. And the little house to the left, the bump out, is not stone. It is wood, like the top part of the barn, but it's on stilts. And we're going to add a little bit of the snow that's coming all the way down. Not a ton, but there's a light little layer of snow up there on the roof. And deepening that shadow side of the house. And then making a little bit more suggestions for what's underneath that little house there. And a little more white paint up there, white gouache, to get that snow standing out against that purple cloud. And now I'm breaking out the Posca pen, which I regret because it's a huge tip And these windows did have white around them, so I'm regretting using them on the windows, but not on the rest of the painting. The rest of the painting, I just kind of went over some of the areas where there was the most snow, and I was actually really happy with that, and also using it on these trees, but not happy with using it on the windows. And I kind of go back in and try to take a black pen to re-carve out those windows, but I would avoid doing that on teeny tiny windows like that again. Now, there was a fence in front of this beautiful barn, and I was going to leave it out on this painting, but it actually really does add quite a bit. So I got my 3 posts in there and then a very long, skinny rigger brush. And this one had four not rails. I guess they were like little round copper rails, very thin. So I'm going to come through and put this in, and I am glad I added it because I like the way it has. I get to put the snow caps on it. I'm going to deepen the right side of these fence posts with some purple. Also down at the bottom where the snow was like stacked around it. So I'm going to go up the right and put a little suggestion at the bottom of some concave snow. And then a big glob of the white snow was sitting on each of these, and then it wrapped around the bottom. And I don't know, I just think it adds a nice little bit to the scene. So sometimes it'll block your eye from the scene when you throw a fence in there, but I am happy that I added it. And then I'm going around the bottom because the snow was piled up and had blown around the base of it. So we're going with that. This was such a fun painting. I really hope that you give this one a whirl. It's a lot of snow is so fun to paint if you like purples and blues. I don't know, it's just kind of a romantic color. I just love it. And a little more white. Now I'm coming in with my pen to try to redefine those windows. I'm not super unhappy with it, but I probably would have used a much smaller, maybe a white liner brush would have been better than breaking out the Posca on these window frames. I'm not unhappy with it. I mean, that's how they did look. They had a big white frame around them. And we are getting very close to the end. Now I'm just throwing in a few more shadows in some areas where there should be shadows, like under the eave of the house. Down here, the sides of the windows, under the eaves of this house. Just kind of taking a big look around the whole thing. And a little more shadow. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. I don't know how many people are left at this point. Look at my analytics later. A thumbs up and a comment in there. It helps when people share my channel to get my other things shared. We're gonna peel the tape off of here. And when I took a watercolor conference a few weeks ago, one of the artists said, I always tape, it looks so much better. And so I thought, I'm going to tape. And it just does, it makes me so much happier when I'm painting to have a nice border around my painting. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it and have a wonderful week. And I'll be back next week